Welcome to the tutorial on My Class Progress, a website designed to empower students with tools to track and understand their own learning, parents with the ability to monitor their students' work and growth, and teachers with the ability to no longer have to worry about data and instead focus on what's going to improve student achievement. One of the biggest buzz phrases floating around Common Core right now is it gives teachers the opportunity to do what they've been wanting to do for the past 12 years. Common Core encourages deep and challenging tasks and projects, but for teachers to plan those activities, it takes time. My Class Progress frees up teachers' time used spending grading assignments and figuring out what to do with those results. Let's take a look at how. Managing classes and students is simple. The first thing is that you create groups. You can load up, you'll add your blocks, and you can create as many groups as you want. You can create a group for kids that you work with at Saturday school. You can create a group if you tutor some fifth graders after school. And you can assign students to as many of those groups as you want. So the way that you assign students is we come back over here to roster, and we select rosters based on a student's homeroom. So we just pick which homeroom we're looking at. And so then we can just add students by simply clicking to any of those groups. So if you have a kid that comes to Saturday school and they're also in your second block, then you'll be able to see their results in the context of either group. And this makes targeting the exact group of kids that you want to work with really easy. A nice feature is that you can very seamlessly switch between any grade level standards and content and any subjects standards and content. If you teach different grade levels or if you teach multiple subjects, this is an incredibly powerful tool. Everything you need is in one place, and you switch between them with just a click of a button. Also, if you tutor kids that are in a different grade level or you want to assign your students material from a different grade level, it's a piece of cake. You just simply switch it over there. Now, all of your standards are built into the website already for you. However, you do have to create skills. And so skills are the building blocks for those standards. The way that skills work is that when you create them, they get linked to a specific standard. Especially with the broad Common Core standards, it's really important to be able to access information about the specific skills students are working on. So right now, let's go back. We're at the teacher's dashboard. We'll explain what all of these blue boxes down here do in a second, but right now I want to go over some of the navigation. The site is broken up into a few major components, and first we're going to look at the two main types of assessments, benchmarks and quizzes. The benchmarks are summative. They involve a test with lots of different standards. They're usually longer than quizzes, and to make a benchmark, the first thing you have to do is create questions, obviously. So you and the other people that teach that grade level and subject share questions. First, you select the standard that the question relates to. Then you write your questions and options. You can add images and math people. There's some really great notation like fractions and equations and stuff. Select the right answer. And then lastly, you categorize the question as to which skill it most closely corresponds to. So this allows you to work with very targeted information about what students are struggling or excelling with. Now from there, we're also able to, of course, view all of the questions we've made and edit them, or delete them. Lastly, to assemble the benchmark, all that we have to do is simply select which standards we want to have on that benchmark, right? And then it's going to give us a list of all of the questions we've created about those standards. Just simply select the questions that we want to have on the benchmark, and voila, you're done. Now, quizzes work just a little bit differently. Quizzes, you create and edit the questions the same way, but instead of choosing which questions go on the quiz, you simply select how many questions you want. And then the program automatically and randomly pulls questions into the quiz based on how many questions you told it to. So this is awesome for doing redos because each time a student retakes a quiz without you having to do anything, they're getting a new quiz. It's also really nice if you have a bunch of people pretty close together taking the quiz because the first Kid A's quiz is going to be completely different than Kid B's quiz. So this way, this saves you a ton of time and it gives the students an opportunity to constantly be getting a new set of questions. So let's head over to the student dashboard, what students see when they log in. When a student logs in, the first thing that they're going to see is some really great feedback on how they're doing on each skill. It shows them a day-by-day tracker of their progress on that individual skill. You can see here how I'm doing that. This is kind of going back. These are questions I did in May and June, and you can see on a quiz I got 1 out of 2. And obviously I'm kind of sampling different things, so these results are a little bit different than what a student may see. But I did 2 practice questions. I got both of them right. Then I did 14 practice questions. I only got 5 right. So it gives you this, like, over time, how much am I getting better or worse? Strong research suggests that one of the best indicators about how a student is doing on a given skill is just simply asking them. So each student for each skill can pick whether or not that skill is a strength of theirs or a weakness of theirs. Obviously, this gives students ownership over what they're learning. But it also then you're able to see a side-by-side comparison of who said strengths versus weaknesses. And this is really cool for creating groups or seating charts. It's just right there next to each other. These kids said they're strong at this. These kids said they're weak. Go. Now, kids can also see their quiz grades. They can see their benchmarks. And My Class Progress also allows you to assign work to students. And this is a pretty powerful feature of the website. So when students log in, they see what you have assigned for them to work on next. And then they also, based on this data, can see why you told them, hey, you need to work on this next. The last big thing here to talk about is that students can set goals. They get to pick what they feel like they need to work on most. So depending on what standard is selected up here, we see the skills here. And then they get to pick why. Hopefully they'll be more specific than that. And then they get to pick what their target grade is. And for me, this is a really, really important thing. Because a kid that's been consistently scoring at a 30, it's completely awesome if they set a target grade of a 60 or 70, right? Because that's like doubling their score. And I know, at least for me sometimes, I don't do a good enough job of acknowledging those types of successes. I look at my grade book. If it starts with a 9 or is 100, I'm like, awesome. And everything below that, it's like, let's keep it up. Let's keep going. But I'm kind of missing out on some opportunities to really celebrate those types of milestones. So once the goal is set, suddenly now we can see here, it tells me my goal. Every time I log in, it reminds me I'm working on getting better at minutes to hours. The reason that I chose that is, I said, because it's hard. And then the website shows the student, here are all of the things that you need to do to work on it. And if you click on it, it'll take you right there. And it shows you what your target grade is. So let's say that I've done these things. I'm going to go take that quiz. Now, I made this quiz only have one question, just for the sake of the example, because I'm going to show you something pretty cool about notifications. So Mr. York drives 45 minutes at 60 miles per hour. Well, I went 45 miles. So I hit submit, and hooray, I made 100. Notice that we have a new message here, and I can click this, and I actually got 2 new messages. First, my goal was to get a 90 or higher on that quiz, and I got 100. So I get this notification saying, great work, you accomplished your goal. Then I also get this notification saying that I made 100 on that quiz. Students will get notifications for getting high grades. They get notifications if they get a grade that's a lot higher than their previous grade. And they get notifications for completing practice and for completing goals. Going back over to your dashboard, and it's important to note, by the way, this is really awesome for like that immediate positive feedback. The second you're done, boom, it's there congratulating you. Sometimes we're busy with other students and we don't get to celebrate in that initial excitement. Now students at least get that kind of that feedback, that gratification. So back to the teacher dashboard, you can see all of their accomplishments. I just met my goal and now that accomplishment is there. You can see students that have had high growth. So I don't know what this student had originally, but I know that they went up 40 points on their quiz. Then you can also see students that just got really high scores, students that scored advanced or an A on any given quiz or benchmark. Now you can obviously get, and this is all organized by date. You can obviously get a lot more detailed of a view than that. So let's take a look at benchmark results. This is our hub where we're looking at benchmark information. First of all, you can see the actual benchmark the way that the students look at it. So notice that some of these are already checked. As a student, benchmark exams save each answer the moment they're clicked. And this way a student can finish a test up later, or if a laptop crashes or there's a fire drill, like their information saved. Now, it's not until they hit submit that it gets locked in stone. Once they hit submit, they can't go back, they can't access it again, the answers are saved, the grade is recorded. So their answers on the test view are also cleared. So if you decide you want to reassign the test, it'll be a blank test once they've already hit submit. Now, you can see just the grades if you just want to get a quick overview of who's doing well. And if you just take a look at the grades, you can sort by date to see the most recent scores, or you can sort by score to see who has the highest or lowest, or you can sort by last name to see, for easy transfer into your grade book. You can also filter. Let's say I just want to see my fourth block and I just want to see students that got basic on that, or maybe basic and proficient, or maybe just proficient, right? So this gives you a really nice, quick, I just need this information right on my fingertips kind of view. Now we can get a little bit more specific. We can get a breakdown of each individual question. This is nice to see exactly what your students have missed. So when we take a look at this table, if you hover over one of the options, we can see over to the right, it's actually showing me the question that student missed. The missed questions are in red, the ones right are in blue. On top of that, we can also sort by grade. So if I scroll over here to look at our grades, I can see, okay, this student got this grade, this student got this grade. I can sort by that. And I can also sort by question. So I'm grouping all of the wrong answers together. And this is actually a pretty powerful tool. There was, so here are all of the students that picked C. There were 3 students. And so looking at this question, that's going to make me wonder, what was it about that option? All 3 of them must have a very similar misconception. So can I pull these kids aside and just address that really quickly and maybe get to the root of the problem a little bit faster? Like before, you can sort by basic or below basic, and by block as well. Now, the last table. This is by far the most powerful table that we've looked at so far. The program automatically groups the questions by standard and shows you the average for each student for each standard. The numbers on this table show you the average from all your students for that standard. Now, first of all, you can filter. These numbers up here are showing you all of the students' average. So you can filter. Let's say I want to see all the standards that all of my students got below, there's only one. Let's say 60%. So here I have highlighted, just to make it easy, these are the 5 standards that a bunch of my kids really struggle with. So that gives me a big picture of what all of my students have the most trouble with. However, the site can obviously do a lot more than that. You can sort each standard from highest to lowest. So if we take a look at slope, I happen to know there were 5 questions on the benchmark about slope. So when I sort this way, it's going to organize for me. For that standard, here are the students that were below basic, basic, proficient, and advanced. Now when I switch, I obviously have a different list of students, right? So let's go back over here to slope. Instead of organizing it that way, or maybe along with that, I can also just say, only show me my basic students. Oops, I'm on linear, not linear, sorry. Back to slope, only show me my basic students. Or maybe only show me my basic and proficient students. I could also narrow down, I just want to know basic and proficient in my 3rd block. So now, here's the most important about this. It doesn't just show you results, it lets you take action based on these results. With one click, I automatically load up a page that knows which students I had selected. These were my basic and proficient students in my 3rd block. It also happens to know exactly what standard we are working on and creates a list of all of the different things in this website that students could do to work on that standard. And then to assign it, all I have to do is just drag and drop. And now suddenly that student has that assigned in their dashboard. Or maybe if I want to assign all of the students practice on something, I can remove that and just hit apply all. And now suddenly all of those students have practice. I'm done. I go on about my way. I have incredibly targeted, accurate intervention plans and differentiation with a click of a button. Now, as a result of that, going back over to the quiz results, they work almost the same way, except for with quiz results, it's very similar, but since the questions are generated randomly, not every student will have had every question. That explains these white gaps in here, right? So you're able to see color-coded each question, which skill it related to. And then you can see the average for the students selected for that skill. So for all of my students, the average for converting minutes is a 53, while for third block, it was a 63. So you have some information there that you can work off of, like a big picture for your whole class. You can sort by skill. So I only want to see my students. I want to organize it here, all of my students organized from highest to lowest for converting minutes to hours. And then let's say, okay, I can filter who were all of my students that were advanced for the whole standard or just for converting minutes to hours. And maybe I just want to see the ones in my third block. And maybe instead of advanced, I'm going to go with below basic and basic. And then, of course, I can assign those students work based on these results. The last two things to talk about are practice and task. Before assessment, students can work and learn about skills and standards. The practice section gives students questions one after another. And when you create practice questions, you can add hints, which gives sort of a scaffolded support for students when they get stuck. If they encounter a question they don't know, they hit hints. You can add as many hints as you want and sort of give them closer and closer to the answer as they go to try and help guide their own thinking and give them feedback. Then you can also provide support for each option. So if the correct answer is B and the student chooses A, you can give them a customized feedback for choice A that addresses exactly why that choice is wrong. Maybe you know that choice A means that they got their X and Y axes mixed up. Or maybe it means that they don't know how to conjugate the verb correctly. Then you can address exactly what is wrong about that option, and then they have to go back and answer it again and get the right answer. And when they get the right answer, they get positive feedback, encouraging them on why what they chose was right and congratulating them. Students keep working on questions till they reach a score of 100. And once they finish that section, they're ready for a quiz. Now, on the practice section, on the feedback, you're able to see all of the students that have gotten up to 100, right? Just sort it from lowest to highest, or maybe just filter advanced. And now here are all of my students that have 100, and then I can assign a quiz to them, once again, with just a click of a button. If instead of going from a practice or quiz, I just want to assign work, I can go straight to here. And now I can switch through any standard and, of course, drag and drop. I can change the order of assignments if I want. I can move an assignment to a different student. I can remove assignments. I can remove an assignment from all students, or I can assign something to all students. Very quick, very easy. Also, if I want to assign to everyone except for one or two people, I can just click their name and they'll disappear from that list. Lastly, there's some really great resources out there like Khan Academy and MyOnReader that are outside the scope of this website. They're hosted somewhere else. But you can actually still add them into this website. You can go in here and add modules. Here's a Khan Academy module. Here's a speed, distance, time module. And then it'll be able to track if that student has finished that module or not and give you feedback on which students have finished which modules. These modules, of course, are things that you can assign on that assign page that we were just looking at. So I hope that you're as excited about getting to start off using this site in the fall as I am. It empowers students and it gives teachers back the time they need to do the things that we matter the most. If you're interested, please let me know. I can't wait to see a lot of people using this site this year. Thanks a lot.